Welcome students. Today we are going to learn chapter 1 of science for standard 6, natural resources. Observe the picture alongside and answer the questions. Where do we see the birds? Where is the cow grazing? Look at the trees and the road. Where does the river come from? How does it flow? Where is the aeroplane? Where are the fish seen? On what is the sailboat floating? You can see that some things in the picture are in water, some on land, and some in the sky, that is, in the air. Thus, all things on the earth are associated with air, water, and land. Air, water, and land are called the earth's atmosphere, hydrosphere, and lithosphere, respectively. Moreover, different living things occupy these three spheres of the earth. What is a biosphere? These living things and the parts of lithosphere, hydrosphere, and atmosphere which they occupy are together called the biosphere. These spheres have formed on the earth naturally. Now, what is an atmosphere? The atmosphere is a layer of air that surrounds the earth. The surface of the earth comprises of water and land, that is, the hydrosphere and lithosphere. Now, the water occupies 71% of the whole of the earth and land occupies 29%. So, this tells us that the hydrosphere occupies a much larger part than the lithosphere. We also look upon these natural components. What do you mean by natural components? All the things that are available naturally, that is, the things that are available in nature. We look upon these natural components in solid, liquid, and gaseous form as resources. Now, in other words, we use them to fulfill our requirements. That is, we use all these natural things to fulfill our requirements, for our needs, to use it for our daily life. Based on what we have just learned, now let's define what natural resources is. Now, air, water, and land are the factors important for sustaining the living world on the earth and for fulfilling their basic needs. They are called natural resources. It means that air, water, and land and all the things that it contains is necessary for all the living things on this earth. So, therefore, air, water, and land and all the things that it contains are called the natural resources. Do you recall, students? What are the 5 layers of the atmosphere? Okay, let's revise it. The layers of the atmosphere are named as the troposphere, stratosphere, mesosphere, ionosphere, and exosphere. We learned that air, water, and land are the natural resources. Now let's understand each of them in detail. The air in the atmosphere around the earth contains nitrogen, oxygen, carbon dioxide, 6 inert gases, nitrogen dioxide, sulfur dioxide, water vapor, and dust particles. The figure alongside shows the different percentages of the gases present in the air. Now, nitrogen is 78%, which is the largest in the air. Then comes the oxygen. Oxygen is 21%. Argon is 0.9%. Carbon dioxide is 0.03%. and other gases, that is the other inert gases and water vapor and dust particles, comprise of 0.07% of all the air, all the gases in the air. You can see that air is a mixture of several gases and is the chief constituent of the Earth's atmosphere. Now, what do you mean by chief constituent? Chief constituent means the main constituent of the Earth's atmosphere. Besides these gases, air also contains water vapor and dust particles. We have learned the various layers of the atmosphere. Now, the amount of gases in the air is the greatest near the surface and it decreases. That is, the amount of gases in the atmosphere decreases as it goes higher and higher from the surface. That is, air becomes rare at higher altitudes. Rare at the higher altitudes means it becomes very less as it goes away from the surface of the earth. We just learned that air comprises of many of these gases. Now let's see why these gases are important or what are the uses of these gases in air. The first one is nitrogen. Now nitrogen helps living things to build the necessary proteins. It is useful in the production of ammonia and in airtight packaging of foodstuffs. Now, you have seen many of your packets which are airtight, like your chips packets and all that. Air cannot go in. So, how do they make it? They use nitrogen for this. Now, the second type of gas is the oxygen. Now, oxygen we all know is necessary for respiration in living things and for combustion. What do you mean by combustion? Combustion means burning of a substance. The third gas is carbon dioxide. Now, plants use it for producing their food and it is also used in fire extinguishers. We have seen the fire extinguishers that are placed in all of the major buildings, in schools, and in hospitals. So, carbon dioxide gas is used in these fire extinguishers. The fourth type of gas is argon. It is used in electric bulbs, the bulbs that we light in our homes, in public places. So, argon gas is used. Then we have the helium gas. Now, helium gas is used for obtaining low temperature and also for generating lifts in airships. Okay, airships are our aeroplanes. Now, next is our neon gas. Neon gas is used in decorative lights and the street lighting. You have seen that during Diwali, during festivals, we use all these decorative lights. So, in that, neon gas is present. Krypton gas is used in fluorescent lights. Those fluorescents are those bright, flashy lights that we used as decorations. So, krypton gas is used in that. And then we have the xenon gas. Xenon gas is used in the flash bulbs of our cameras. Some of the cameras, the high powered cameras, they use flashlights. So, in those flashlights, xenon gas is used. We just learned that air comprises of many gases and each of these gases have a fixed proportion. That is, the percentage that it is present in the air is fixed. Now, the living world on the earth is sustained. That is, it can live on this earth due to the balance between various gases and other constituents of the air. Now, all this balance between the various gases means there should be, all these gases should be in their fixed proportion. It should not be more than what is required or less than that is required. Otherwise, we will not be able to, all living things will not be able to live on this earth. Now, the atmosphere is very important filter. Like it filters, it doesn't allow certain things to enter the earth. It allows the light and heat of the sun to reach the earth, which is necessary for life. But it prevents the harmful elements from reaching the earth. It is in the atmosphere that fog, clouds, snow, and rain are produced. What is the similarity in the three pictures below? All the above pictures show large scale emission. What is the emission? Emission means giving out or producing of smoke through different agencies. Now, what are the different agencies that you see in the pictures? We see the chimneys of the factory, we see vehicles giving out smoke and other gases, and here we see the forest fires. So, even the forest fires, when it burns, it gives out harmful gases. Now, this smoke directly mixes with the atmosphere, disturbing the balance between the constituents of air. We have learned that the air comprises of various gases in their fixed constituents, that is, fixed percentage. So, when all these gases go into the air, the balance of the gases is disturbed. Now, this is called air pollution. Harmful gases are given out through the combustion of fuels. What do you mean by combustion of fuels? That is burning of the fuel that is used in the vehicles, that is petrol, diesel, or natural gas. When it burns, it gives out harmful gases. And in big industries, and also through the incomplete combustion of fuels like wood and coal. As a result, air pollution is increasing day by day. Now, which are the gases that are produced due to the burning of these fuels? Is nitrogen dioxide, carbon dioxide, carbon monoxide, sulfur dioxide, and soot. Let's learn about the ozone layer that is present in our atmosphere. Now, there is a layer of ozone gas in the lower part of the stratosphere. Ozone gas is not directly useful for the survival of living things. That is, it is not directly used by us living organisms, all the living things in this on this earth. Yet it is very important for living things to have this layer of ozone at the high altitude around the earth. Now, why? Because the ultraviolet rays coming from the sun are very harmful for living things. Now, what this ozone layer does is this ozone gas absorbs, takes these rays into it, and as a result, life on earth is protected, and so we are safe from from the harmful rays of the sun. The ozone layer acts like a protective shell. That is, it protects our earth. It is like an umbrella protecting all the living things, all the organisms, the whole of the earth. It is protecting us. Now, the ozone layer is destroyed if chemicals like carbon tetrachloride or chlorofluorocarbons used in air conditioners and refrigerators mix with the air. Now, to know that, to get the importance of the ozone layer, 16 September is celebrated as Ozone Protection Day all over the world to make everyone aware of the importance of ozone. Now, do you know, children, that in metropolitan cities, that is, big cities like Mumbai, Pune, or Nagpur, big boards are displayed at places of heavy traffic to show the proportion of the various constituents of the air at that place. Now, due to these boards, because of these boards, we can see the amount of harmful elements in the air. Now, these boards are put so that people come to know that what is the harmful effect of all the traffic and all the factories that are there, and what are the harmful effects it is having on human life. So that these boards help people to get aware of it and to reduce pollution as far as possible. Now let's learn about the next natural resource, that is water. Now here is an activity. Try this. Observe how much water is used and for what purpose it is used in your house for a whole day. Now record it, that is, write it down in a chart like the one shown here. Discuss this data in the class. So all the students collect and discuss as to how much water was used for the various purposes in each one's house. Now divide the total amount of water used in your house by the number of persons in your house to find out how much water each person needs. By the previous activity, we will see that it is almost impossible for us to spend even a single day without water. We need to drink 3 to 4 liters of water every day so that all our bodily functions run smoothly and we don't fall sick. So, our body requires a lot of water during the day. Not only human beings, but even other living things also require water although the amount of water they need may vary or may depend on the size of the body. Like elephants and tigers are huge animals, so they require a lot of water than cats, squirrels, dogs. They require less water. Thus, we see that water is very, very important for all living things on this earth. How is water formed? If hydrogen gas burns in air, it combines with oxygen and water is formed. Let's learn the characteristics of water. Now, in nature, water occurs in three states, that is, solid state, liquid state, and the gaseous state. Water does not have color or taste or odor, that is, it does not have any smell. Many substances readily dissolve in water. Most of the things we can dissolve in water. Therefore, water is a universal solvent. What is universal solvent means? It can dissolve many of the substances. That is why it is called as a universal solvent. We learned that all living things on this earth require water. Nobody can live without water. Now, the blood of animals, that is, not only all animals but even human beings, and the sap in plants contain a very high proportion of water. A lot of water is required by all living things. No living thing can survive without water. Therefore, it is said that water is life. We know that 71% of the earth is surrounded by water. Now, water is not of the same form. Now, it is available in the seas and the oceans, in the form of streams and rivers, and also in the form of ice. Now, let's learn what is the proportion of each of this. Now, seas and oceans comprise of 97% of the water on this earth, as well as groundwater, ice, and water in other forms is 2.7%. And water available for drinking, that is the fresh water, that water that we can use in our homes, is only 0.3%. Okay, so we cannot use all the water on the earth because seawater is salty, and some water is in the frozen state, that is, it is in the form of snow, in the form of ice on the mountain tops. A very small quantity of water is available for drinking, yet it is enough for all living things. It is enough for all of our needs to sustain us, in order that all living things are able to live on this earth. Now observe this picture and say, for what purpose is water being used? Do other living things use water like we do? Now we use water in large quantities. We have learned that water on the earth is regulated through water cycle. We have learned about the water cycle. Water evaporates, forms into clouds, and then it comes down in the form of rain. Now the water vapor formed from the ocean is the main source of water in the water cycle. It gets converted into rain, creating fresh water sources on this earth. What are the natural sources of water? We get water from natural sources such as streams and rivers, ponds, springs, and lakes. Man also digs wells and bore wells to lift the groundwater. Apart from this, man has also constructed bunds and dams of various sizes on the rivers. Let's learn about the scarcity of water. What do you mean by scarcity? The level of water is decreasing day by day. The amount of water that is available on this earth is reducing. Now, this is due to the uncontrolled use of water for an increasing population. Population is increasing, so more and more people means more and more people require more water. Then there is also increase in industries and in farming. It is now in short supply. So, water scarcity has become a very serious problem. So, we have to think about saving water, conserving water, so that this doesn't become a serious problem and we are able to save water. How do we conserve water, or how do we take care of water? Number one, we should use water sparingly. That is, we should not waste water. We should use water only how much, the amount of water that is necessary or required for us. We should not unnecessarily waste water. Second is block water, let it percolate. It means that put bunds or put dams and let the water get collected, let it go into the ground, let it sustain so that we can have more wells and we can have more bore wells, and even our plants and other animals can get water. Number three is store water wherever possible. So we should try to store it in the form of our big dams and reservoirs. Also, we can have small natural ponds created where we can store the water. And fourth is reuse water wherever possible. Remember that stored water does not become stale, it doesn't get spoiled. So we can store water for a very long time and use it whenever we require. Let's learn about the third natural resource, that is land. Now, while we are doing so, let us reflect on these following questions. What is land made of? Is land flat everywhere? What do you see on land? Does man produce soil or land? What has man created on land? If a deep pit is dug in the ground, what do you find there? Land is seen in the form of stones, soil, big rocks. It is not flat everywhere. It is hilly in some places and flat in others. All terrestrial animals, including man, live on land. How does the terrestrial animals use land? Now, some terrestrial animals dig burrows in the ground for shelter. That is, animals like rabbits and snakes. They make their homes in deep into the soil. So, this means that they use land for fulfilling their needs. Now, you human beings also use land. We also use land for farming and for building houses and roads. In what other ways is land useful to us? We make use of plants and animals in the forests that grow on the land. Then the minerals, crude oil, and natural gas obtained from the earth, that is from the land, are very important to us. So, all this tells us that land is a very important natural resource. What is land made of? Now, to understand this, let's do an activity. Take a transparent plastic bottle, a handful of soil, some stones, sand, some dry leaves, and water. Cut off the upper tapering part of the bottle. Put the rest of the material in the lower part and add water. Now, stir the mixture thoroughly and put it aside. Observe the bottle the next day and answer these questions. How does the mixture in the bottle look now? Do you see layers in it? What is seen in the different layers from top to bottom? Now look at the picture alongside. Now if you notice carefully, layers of the various materials, the stones, the soil that we put, now there are layers formed. So our land on earth also looks like this. If a pipeline is being laid in your neighborhood, observe carefully the pits dug for this purpose. You will see some layers under the land surface. Let's learn about the different layers of the soil. If the land has mature soil, the topmost layer is formed by the decomposition of the remains of plants and animals. Now, what do you mean by decomposition? When the animals die, microorganisms eat into it. So, they turn into soil. So, this layer is called humus. It is usually found in dense forests, that is, thick forests. The land below this is full of sand, soil, small stones, worms, and insects. Soil and pieces of bedrock are found below this layer of land. Now, this soil is immature. Further below this layer, the proportion of soil decreases and that of rock increases. That is, there is less of soil and more of rocks. Now, this is the layer of bedrock. The main minerals in the soil are derived from these rocks. We get all our minerals, all the minerals from these rocks. This is the reason why soil in different regions is different. The color and the texture of the soil are both determined by the bedrock. So next time when you're moving to your villages or you're visiting some different places, observe the soil. Sometimes the soil is dark brown in color, sometimes it is very light in color, sometimes it is red, sometimes it is black in color. So the texture and the color of the soil depends on the bedrock. How is soil formed? Now, the soil on the land is formed by natural processes. Now, the abiotic components. What are abiotic? The non-living things in the soil are supplied through the weathering of the rocks. Now, what do you mean by weathering of the rocks? As the season changes, we have the winter, the summer, the rains. The all the rocks get disintegrated and soil is formed. Due to the heat, cold, and water of the sun, wind, and rain, respectively, the bedrock breaks down into smaller pieces. Stones, sand, and soil are formed from these pieces. Microbes, worms, and insects are found among the soil. Rodents like mice and rats are also found here. The roots of trees growing on the land also help in weathering of the rocks. Now, all this helps in breaking the rocks down and forming soil. Now, the process of soil formation is slow and continuous. It takes about thousands of years for a 2.5 centimeter thick layer of mature soil to form. We know that land is a very important natural resource. But what happens is soil can get destroyed in short periods due to floods, storms, and human activities such as mining. That is why it is necessary to conserve soil, to protect soil, and to prevent the erosion of soil. What do you mean by erosion of soil? Soil gets blown away, gets sometimes it get flown away by the floods. So the best remedy or the best answer for this is to increase the green cover of the land. That means grow more trees, more grass. So erosion of land is reduced if grass, trees and bushes are grown on it. How? Because the grass, the trees, the bushes hold the soil together and do not let the soil to get eroded or get washed away due to the floods or being blown away by the wind. You know, students, humus is a layer formed on the soil due to the decomposition of dead plants and animals by microbes. Now, the microbes are present in the soil. So, when the dead plants and animals go into the soil, these microbes eat into this plants and animals and break down the bodies of these plants and animals. So, all the nutrients from this dead plants and animals goes into the soil. So, humus supplies nutrients to the soil. Now, humus is also important for aerating the soil and for holding water in the soil. Now, the proportion of humus in the upper layer of good soil is about 33% to 50%. Let's learn how crude oil, that is petrol, diesel, and natural gas, was formed. Now, forest on land got buried underground due to the great upheavals. Upheavals means a lot of changes that took place on the earth many ages ago. After that, the process of formation of fossil fuels from the remains of the living things took place under the ground. It means that all the living things that were buried, that is, the animals and the plants that were buried, started decomposing, and thus the fossil fuels started the formation. Now, we get the fuels like petrol, diesel, kerosene, paraffin, and other useful material like tar and wax from these fossil fuels, and these fossil fuels are called crude oil. Land, water, and air available on earth. Now, living things use land, water, and air available on the earth, and so does man. However, the proportion of these resources that are actually put to use are very small as compared to the whole of the earth. It means our whole earth is so huge and it's filled with natural resources. What we are using, whatever what natural resources that we are using, is a very small proportion of whatever is available. Now look at the following table. The table shows that land is 29%. Potable water, that is fresh water, is 0.3%, and oxygen is just 21%. But even in these small proportions, the resources shown in the table are sufficient. They are enough for all our living things, for the needs of our living things. But provided that man is not greedy, it is very necessary for man to control his greed. In other words, he must use all these resources judiciously, means very, very sparingly, only when it is necessary. Use only those things which are necessary, with the awareness that they are meant for all other living things and not just for mankind. So, only man can't use all these things. It should be available even for plants, even for animals, even for other insects, birds, and other microorganisms. Only then our earth will be able to sustain. Institutes at work. Indian Meteorological Department was established in 1875 for studying the weather in the Indian subcontinent. The main function of this is to observe the weather and to make the weather forecast. That is, to predict the weather. What could be the weather tomorrow? Whether it will be hot, whether it will rain, or whether it will be windy. Now, this institute also conducts research related to changes in the weather, makes forecasts about rain, and studies the development related to global warming. Hope you have understood the lesson, children. Now let's revise what we have learned. The elements available in nature which fulfill the basic needs of living things are called natural resources. Air, water, and land are important natural resources. Soil has both biotic and abiotic constituents. There are many constituents of air, such as nitrogen, oxygen, carbon dioxide, inert gases, water vapor, and dust particles. The ozone layer is a protective shell of the earth. Natural resources should be used carefully and sparingly. Hey, this video was made just for you. If you've liked it, do give it a thumbs up. And if you're not a subscriber yet, please subscribe.